later went on to become a Catholic priest, and then played a role in the Pennsylvania grand jury report, so that scathing report that came out just the other week. James joins us live in studio. James, looking at this grand jury report in Pennsylvania, I think had a lot of people shocked, and you might have had a background look at how it came to be. What were some of the things that were asked of you during this entire process? What were they looking for?
They were obviously looking to find out what happened to me. The abuse I experienced as a teenager, how I was affected by that over the course of my life. But my sense throughout the process was they weren't just trying to compile a rogues gallery of abusers, or even simply to give voice to victims, which obviously is hugely important. They were aiming for, to put it bluntly, they were aiming for bishops and diocesan officials. They were aiming for the systematic nature of the cover-up. This is a historical issue going back to 306 AD. There have been church councils and synods and interventions by popes. This is nothing new in the Catholic Church, and it's something that seems to be part of its DNA. So I think the grand jury in Pennsylvania, and I would hope that a grand jury investigation in New York would do the same, and that is to aim for the system and aim for the church leaders who really enabled the mechanisms of cover-up.
And you mentioned this kind of briefly before, but this was something you were really hoping to be a part of, wanted to be a part of after your experiences both as a victim and as part of the church.
Absolutely. I still feel that I am a priest. I still self-identify as a priest. I don't wear the collar. I'm glad not to. I don't care for the title. I don't need that public living of my ministry, but I do see this as part of my call. I feel compelled to make the church safer and call it to be, I think, truer to its mission. If the church can't protect its most vulnerable members, what good is it? And what other possible message could it even claim to have if it can't do this most basic of tasks?
We had Mitchell Garabedian and Robert Hodson on a little bit earlier. You know, the cynics out there listen to Hodson, Garabedian. They've been out very public over the past year, especially here in Buffalo. And a lot of people saying, you know, they're just looking for money. They're looking for victims to come forward. What would you say about, maybe not even specifically these two men, but the work of attorneys on behalf of victims, and how is that important for victims like yourself?
Well, first of all, I had no intention of going public through the media. I had no interest in filing a lawsuit. I approached the grand jury as being the most appropriate and legitimate voice that I could find. And really, you mentioned Bob Hodson and Mitchell Garabedian. They're two of my closest associates. I could not have come forward without them. They were among the first people that I contacted before I went to the grand jury. And this argument that some folks are out for money, why I don't have any issue with that is that in some cases, now I'm not even speaking for myself, but in some cases, that level of retribution, a financial settlement, might be necessary to recoup what is lost. You can't imagine the devastation this causes to one's employment, to one's family. There are oftentimes substance abuse issues as a result. That's a form of triage. And the financial impact of this is absolutely devastating. And so I just think that first, and practically speaking, the only way the church is going to ever pay attention to this is if they get hit in their pocketbook. And it's not to say that I want the church to be harmed in any way or resources to go in that direction. Unfortunately, it's the only way they'll pay attention. So to me, that notion that folks are out for money, it's kind of a non-issue, and where it is an issue, to me, it's understandable.
I asked both of them this question, but you're probably better suited to speak to it as an abuse victim yourself. Looking at this grand jury report, many, if not all, of the priest mentioned can't be prosecuted because of a statute of limitations. For a victim, is that enough to get this light shed on the problem without the possibility of prosecution? Does that bring maybe enough closure or something of the like to think that you've done your part in all this?
Well, as with many things in life, sometimes you have to take what you can get. And shining a spotlight on a perpetrator without them going to jail is as good as it gets in many cases. And it prevents them from ministering again, and it shines a light on them for the rest of their lives that they're not going to be able to escape. And I think that makes us safer. I think it makes our communities safer. So there's all kinds of cold comfort in this. You're absolutely right. But at the same time, I think it's a step towards vindication of the experience of victims, but it's a step towards pointing this person out in the midst of society and not allowing them to offend again.
That's James Faluszczak, who's been kind enough to join us live in studio for the past half hour. WBEN News Time.